you ever been caught in that maddening cycle? You know exactly what you need to do.
Oh, all the time.
Maybe it's starting that huge, overwhelming project, or tackling a mountain of neglected laundry.
Or, and this is the big one for me, having that really difficult conversation you've been putting off for months.
Exactly. But instead of jumping into action, you just wait.
You wait.
You wait for the feeling. You wait for that magical burst of energy, that sudden lightning strike of motivation to hit you before you dare to start.
And if you're anything like, well, the rest of us, that magical burst almost never shows up precisely when you need it most.
Right.
We've all been there, just paralyzed by that gap between knowing what has to be done and having the internal impulse to actually do it.
Exactly. We treat motivation like it's the engine of success. We believe that all meaningful action has to be driven by inspiration. But this is the great unspoken paradox of modern achievement. We've been relying on an engine that, it perpetually breaks down. It runs out of gas and it never, ever arrives on time.
Which brings us right to the core thesis of this deep dive. And it's an idea we're laying out not to discourage you, but actually to liberate you.
Okay.
The unspoken rule, the hidden truth that unlocks consistent performance is this: motivation is garbage.
Whoa. Okay, that's intentionally provocative, I know.
It is.
But we're not just here to preach, we're here to give you the operational manual, the internal blueprint to actually hack your own psychology.
We are. We're fusing the timeless wisdom of ancient Rome, specifically the highly practical philosophical engineering of Stoicism, with concrete modern neurobiological insights into decision-making.
Our mission today is really focused. It's to provide you with an actionable framework.
We are literally designing the architectural plans for what the Stoics call the inner citadel.
The inner citadel, I like that.
It's that unshakable foundation of self-control and resilience. This is the mechanism that allows you to stop waiting for inspiration to strike and just start acting, regardless of your mood, your energy level, or any internal feeling.
Okay, let's unpack that statement then. Motivation is garbage. That goes against everything the modern self-help world tells us.
Everything.
We're constantly told to, find our why, visualize the goal, seek that emotional energy. Why are we advocating for just tossing that entire concept out?
Look, we discard it because, while it feels fantastic and exciting for a moment, it is fundamentally unreliable for the complex, sustained, and honestly often boring efforts that are required for long-term change.
Right. It's not sexy.
Not at all. When we look at the sources, we define motivation as that emotional energy, that internal force. It actually comes from the Latin word motivus, which means a moving cause.
A moving cause.
And it absolutely thrives on novelty, on emotional desire, and the perceived excitement of the reward.
But that reliance on emotion means it is, by definition, a highly volatile state. It's temporary.
Extremely temporary.
So how temporary are we talking? Our sources suggest that a typical motivational surge, the kind you get from watching a pump-up video or setting some dramatic new resolution, that might be good for only about 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
It's like a flash in the pan. You can't build a strong, consistent, durable life on something that burns out in the time it takes to brew a cup of coffee.
Precisely. And that's why we have to pivot entirely to discipline.
Okay.
If motivation is the craving, the spark, the fleeting feeling, then discipline is the structure. It's the engineered framework.
So how do you define discipline then?
Discipline is the voluntary, structured approach that's grounded in your internal standards and your alignment with your values. It's built and solidified through mental resilience and the deliberate repetition of behavior.
And that ensures you take action, regardless of your immediate mood or some passing feeling.
Exactly.
So it's the difference between doing something because your feelings tell you to, and doing something because your deep internal standard, your character, told you that you would. And I think this distinction is captured perfectly in that powerful and seemingly paradoxical philosophy from the retired Navy SEAL commander Jocko Willink.
Discipline equals freedom.
Discipline equals freedom. It just sounds like a contradiction when you first hear it.
It does. It suggests that limiting yourself is somehow the path to liberation. But when you really think about it practically, it is profoundly true.
How so?
Well, if you want the flexibility and control in your life, the freedom to choose your schedule, the freedom to pursue audacious financial goals, the freedom of optimal health outcomes, you must first impose discipline.
So discipline is the foundation. It's the structure that maintains progress when that emotional motivation inevitably dips or just disappears
It
entirely.
always disappears.
Right.
That's the one guarantee.
That framing really resonates because when you look at genuinely high performers in any field, pro athletes, successful entrepreneurs, they don't get up at 4 a.m. every day because they woke up feeling pumped and ready for pain.
Not a chance.
They get up because they are disciplined agents of their own lives.
Yeah.
They execute the plan regardless of the feeling. But let's go deeper into why motivation is so unstable. Because this is where modern neuroscience really gives us the empirical evidence to back up what the Stoics knew intuitively. We need to talk about the neurobiological trap.
We absolutely have to. The root of the problem really lies in the way we interact with dopamine.
Dopamine. Okay.
We often misunderstand it. We believe it's the reward chemical we feel after completing a task.
Yeah, the little pat on the back from your brain.
Exactly. But the biological research shows that motivation is this high variability state driven by dopamine. And this neuromodulator is primarily geared toward the craving, the anticipation, and the initial action-oriented pursuit of goals, not the sustained discomfort required for long-term effort.
So dopamine is more like the siren song promising gratification.
Perfect analogy.
Which is why it activates specific regions in the brain, like the ventral tegmental area and the nucleus accumbens.
Yeah, that's right, the brain's pleasure and reward circuitry.
So if I see a donut, or a social media notification, or the start button on a video game, these areas just light up, promising a quick hit.
They do. But because this system is geared toward immediate gain and novelty, it is fundamentally ill-suited for the boring, repetitive, sustained grind that really defines discipline.
And that creates the neurological trap we all fall into. We wait for that massive internal dopamine surge to give us the energy to start a difficult task, like writing the first paragraph of a report or taking out the trash.
But the science is so clear on this. The surge itself is often the result of having already initiated the action.
Wait, say that again?
The motivation doesn't precede the start. The starting creates the motivation. That's why we so often mistake movement for inspiration.
Okay, hold on a minute. If the dopamine surge only comes after we start, how do you explain that initial jolt of energy or panic we feel when we realize a deadline is looming? Or when a sudden crisis hits? Isn't that motivation coming before the action?
That is a fantastic point, and it's a different kind of neurological engagement. The panic surge you feel when a deadline approaches, that's typically driven by stress hormones like cortisol and norepinephrine. It's not pure anticipatory dopamine.
So it's an urgency response, not a pleasure response.
Exactly. And that response is still volatile. It requires an external trigger, like the looming deadline. Discipline, on the other hand, is an internally generated process. It's stable across all conditions.
So the core paradox we have to break is that cycle of waiting for an unreliable feeling that only appears after we've already done the work.
That's the nut we have to crack.
And the biggest hurdle in breaking that cycle is what behavioral experts call activation energy.
Activation energy. It is the massive, disproportionate initial energy requirement you need to move from a state of rest inertia to a state of motion.
It's like a giant boulder on flat ground.
Perfect. It takes enormous effort just to get it rolling, but once it's moving, maintaining that momentum requires far less effort. That initial push that is activation energy, and it's always the hardest part of any task.
We experience this every single morning with sleep inertia. You're in a state of deep rest, and the energy required to physically move and stand up when your alertness is reduced is substantial.
And your brain, which is always seeking to conserve energy and avoid discomfort, fights that movement. It starts manufacturing immediate excuses.
5 more minutes?
It's so cold out there, I'll do it later. It could be getting out of bed, opening a blank document to write a book, or picking up the phone to make a difficult call. The resistance is always, always highest at the very beginning.
Now contrast those volatile, reward-seeking parts of the brain with where the real staying power resides.
Right, we're talking about a shift from the pleasure system to the executive system.
So where does that staying power live, specifically?
The ability to maintain consistency, to exert impulse control, and to sustain discipline. It resides not in the volatile emotional reward system, but in the highly structured executive function regions of the brain.
We're talking about the prefrontal cortex, right? The planning and decision-making part.
Primarily the prefrontal cortex, or PFC, and a really specialized region known as the Anterior Midcingulate Cortex, or AMCC.
Okay, why is the AMCC so critical in this discussion?
The AMCC is noted in neurological studies as the seat of tenacity, resilience, and effortful choice.
Effortful choice.
It's the part of your brain that activates when you are forced to override a comfortable automatic choice and choose a harder one.
Wow.
And critically, these regions, the PFC and the AMCC, are structured for long-term stability and habit maintenance. This is the crucial distinction.
Go on.
Willpower is often seen as depletable, like a muscle that fatigues. Discipline, however, which resides in these stable executive regions, is the system or the structure you build through repeated conscious choices that automate good behavior. You're building structural integrity in your mind, not just momentary force.
So if the dopamine system traps us by waiting for a feeling, and the PFC and AMCC are designed to be our reliable, stable operating system, the trick is bridging that gap. It's hacking that wall of activation energy. And this is where that modern behavioral intervention, the 5-second rule, offers a perfect solution.
It's a perfect example of a contemporary technique that works because it bypasses the emotional mind, the motivation system, and forces immediate engagement of the disciplined executive brain.
And the origin of the 5-second rule is one of the most powerful and, relatable rock bottom stories we have in modern literature. It was born out of genuine desperation. Mel Robbins was experiencing just catastrophic misfortune in the late 2000s.
Yeah, the sources detail her situation pretty clearly. She and her husband had sunk their entire life savings into expanding a successful pizza business, leveraging home equity, maxing out credit cards.
And this was right before the 2008 housing market collapse.
The worst possible timing. They ended up $800,000 in debt. She lost her job. They were facing bankruptcy proceedings.
Yeah.
She just felt this intense embarrassment and shame.
Her coping mechanism was a complete surrender to fear and procrastination. She was hiding from friends, admitted to drinking to cope with the stress her marriage was suffering.
She described herself as laying in bed like a human pot roast marinating in fear.
What an edge.
Isn't it? She knew exactly what she should do. Look for a job, stop drinking, exercise, but she completely lacked the feeling, the motivation to initiate any of it.
So it was a moment where that reliance on motivation just failed spectacularly.
Completely.
Yeah.
She had all the reasons, all the necessary knowledge, but zero impulse to act. That level of despair, where she was facing losing everything she cared about, is what finally forced the cognitive pivot.
And the pivot happened because she saw a rocket launch on television.
That iconic image. Ignition, countdown, liftoff.
It inspired the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. Can you explain the psychological mechanics of counting backwards? Because it feels a little counterintuitive.
The countdown is a startup sequence that demands immediate, intense focus. Its effectiveness lies in its ability to interrupt the hesitation moment.
The hesitation moment.
It's that crucial window, usually lasting about 5 seconds, where your brain starts manufacturing excuses, fear, or resistance. The countdown forces the prefrontal cortex to engage in a structured, immediate task, literally shutting down the emotional system that drives procrastination.
So the rule is simple. The second you feel the impulse to act on a goal, you have 5 seconds to physically move, or your brain wins.
That's the genius of it. You don't count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because that allows the brain to just passively wait for the end.
Right.
You count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It requires focus, it demands energy, and it signals an impending, non-negotiable action. Once you hit one, you move your body. It is a direct hack of that wall of activation energy.
You force the transition from rest to motion.
And that starting effort, which is the hardest, provides the immediate dopamine surge you are waiting for, which then reinforces the behavior.
I think I've successfully counted backwards 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 at least 20 times this morning just to resist the urge to check my phone, and I kept landing on 1 snooze. How do you make that transition stick?
It sticks because of powerful repetition and the underlying realization of what she called the universal resistance principle.
Okay.
Mel Robbins realized that the hesitation, the feeling of resistance you feel in one area like a carbon, resisting the urge to check your phone, or getting out of bed, or not eating the donut, is the exact same neurological resistance felt everywhere else in life.
It's the same internal mechanism.
It's the same feeling, whether the task is trivial or monumental.
That makes so much sense. It's not about the magnitude of the task. It's about the magnitude of the mental friction.
Exactly. Therefore, building the muscle of action in one simple, low-stakes, but painful task like getting out of bed when it's cold transfers courage, confidence, and internal control to every single other area of your life.
You prove to yourself through these small, disciplined acts that you are the type of person who is capable of pushing through discomfort.
And that consistent self-validation is the foundation of building your inner citadel.
Speaking of inner citadels, let's take this deep dive back to millennia, because the principles we're discussing now are the same ones that allowed the most powerful man on Earth to manage continuous global catastrophe without completely losing his mind.
Yes.
We are talking, of course, about the philosopher-emperor Marcus Aurelius.
We have to look at Marcus Aurelius. He was not some retired academic writing from a peaceful villa. He was a Roman emperor who faced conditions of enduring and, appalling misfortune that few modern leaders could ever comprehend.
Right. His adoptive predecessor, Antoninus Pius, had an unprecedentedly peaceful reign.
Marcus was not so lucky. His reign was defined by unrelenting crises.
The historian Cassius Dio praised him for calmly persevering through a multitude of troubles, noting that he preserved the empire despite unusual and extraordinary difficulties, and despite his own weak body. This was not a philosophical retreat.
No, this was war, pestilence, deep political strain. Specifically, he faced the Antonine Plague, which devastated the legions and the population. He battled the relentless Marcomannic Wars. He was on campaign for most of his adult life.
And in a single day, the ill-fated Battle of Carnuntum, we saw the tragic loss of 20,000 legionaries.
40,000. And then the hostile northern tribes rampaged across the provinces, down the Amber Road, across the Alps, and into Italy itself, laying siege to the wealthy city of Aquileia. This was a man ruling the world from a campaign headquarters, facing the disintegration of the empire daily.
And what he left behind, his Meditations, was never intended to be a published book or some grand piece of literature.
No, not at all. The scholar Pierre Hadot explains that these were hypomnemata, or spiritual exercises.
Spiritual exercises.
They were personal notes written daily for his own self-transformation. Literally, a manual for cultivating the invincible mind and protecting his inner stronghold. This stronghold, this inner rational guiding principle, was called the hegemonicon.
He was giving himself daily psychological assignments to maintain his character against the chaos of the external world.
That's it. And it's vital to grasp that Stoicism, as practiced by Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, was always intended as a practical philosophy. It's a therapy, a way of life, not merely an academic theory.
Which is why the principles translate so directly to modern psychological practice.
Oh, absolutely. This is where the ancient world meets the therapist's couch. The connection is direct, and it's acknowledged by the founders themselves.
You mean the founders of modern therapies?
Yes, pioneers of modern cognitive psychology, specifically cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, like Aaron Beck, and rational emotive behavior therapy, REBT, like Albert Ellis, explicitly cited Stoicism as their philosophical precursor.
So what's the core link there between a Roman emperor and modern therapy?
The core Stoic premise, articulated most famously by Epictetus, is that it is not things that disturb us, but our views of them.
And that is the foundation of cognitive restructuring.
It is. It shifts the focus away from external events and forces us to look only at what the Stoics identified as being in our control.
Which is?
Our judgments, our desires, our impulses, and our aversions. Everything else, our body, possessions, reputation, external events, is philosophically indifferent.
That principle is so powerful because it immediately puts the ball back in your court. If the problem is my view of the event, then I can change the event's impact without changing the event itself.
And to organize this effort of self-management, Epictetus laid out 3 fundamental disciplines, or dogmas, for practical conduct, which Marcus Aurelius sought to internalize through his daily writing.
Okay, what are they?
The discipline of judgment, the discipline of desire, and the discipline of action. These 3 disciplines are the architecture of the inner citadel.
Let's start with the discipline of judgment then. This is the act of critically evaluating and reframing the reality you're observing. The core principle Marcus Aurelius taught was that happiness depends entirely on the quality of one's thoughts. So the goal is total objectivity. We suffer because we want reality to be different than it is.
And this suffering is captured so beautifully by the psychologist Albert Ellis's very memorable term, masturbation.
Oh, okay.
This is the insistence that things should or must be the way we want or expect them to be. We impose demands on the world.
So when we think the flight should not be delayed, or the economy must get better, or even this difficult task must feel easier.
You're essentially arguing with the unchangeable present reality.
And the pain, as so many philosophers have pointed out, lies precisely in that gap. The distance between what we think should happen and what actually happens is the source of all our distress.
Yes. And when we remove that secret demand that things must conform to our expectations, the pain gap just vanishes.
So what's the Stoic remedy for this?
It's a cognitive restructuring technique called objective representation, sometimes referred to as physical definition.
Physical definition.
It's a deliberate practice where you remove all subjective coloring or emotional value judgments from an event or an object, stripping it down to its most basic material components.
You demystify the thing by reducing it to its material essence. I remember Marcus Aurelius wrote about a luxurious object like a royal purple robe.
Right.
And he would redefine it in his mind, stripping away the concepts of status and wealth until it was merely sheep's hair dyed with the blood of shellfish.
It sounds simplistic, but that practice strips away the pomp, the status, the desire, and leaves you with raw, objective fact. It forces you to realize that anxiety or desire is often just an impression, just a thought, rather than the objective, fearsome reality it claims to be.
A powerful parallel technique is non-judgment, which is often encapsulated by the idea of the maybe story.
Explain that.
We should avoid judging events as definitively good or bad because we lack knowledge of the future consequences. The event that seems like a disaster today might be the catalyst for your greatest success tomorrow.
I think of that Zen master Hakuin anecdote, who famously responded to all news, whether it was the loss of his crop, or finding a treasure, or even being accused of fathering a child, in exactly the same way.
Is that so?
Is that so? The idea is to take every moment and reality exactly as it is, without resistance. If you don't resist what happens, it has no power over you. It just is what it is.
Marcus Aurelius explicitly compared external events to medicine prescribed by a doctor. Even if the medicine tastes bitter or the treatment is difficult, we take it because it's meant to help us.
So similarly, we should accept external events just as they are, seeing them as nature's treatment for us to become better, more resilient people. They happen for us, not against us.
Which moves us perfectly into the second discipline, the discipline of desire. This is the ultimate form of acceptance, epitomized by the concept of amor fati, the love of fate.
The term amor fati was coined much later by Nietzsche, but the philosophy behind it, that unconditional acceptance of fate, is central to Stoicism.
It means loving everything that happens, not merely tolerating it, and certainly not wishing for anything other than what is.
Seneca was so clear that fighting reality is an exercise in futility. It just leads to a constant state of antagonism and unhappiness. Acceptance is truly the only viable path to peace.
But this is where the nuance is absolutely essential, and I think it's often misunderstood.
How so?
A common modern misconception is that amor fati means passive resignation. Just sitting back, doing nothing, and watching the world burn around you.
And that is absolutely not the case.
Yeah.
This distinction has to be crystal clear. Acceptance means recognizing and loving what has already occurred, the unchangeable, immutable reality of the past or present circumstance.
Okay.
And then, from that calm, centered place, taking the smartest, most virtuous action possible to shape tomorrow.
So your proactive actions of today still shape the events of your future. You don't condone the event.
No, you just understand you cannot change it and must make the best of it.
We have a remarkable historical anecdote that perfectly illustrates this empowered active acceptance. The story of Thomas Edison's burning research lab.
Oh, this is a great one. Edison was 67 years old in 1914 when a massive fire broke out at his research campus in West Orange, New Jersey.
And because of the nature of his work, the storage rooms were filled with strange, volatile chemicals and films,
fueling these magnificent green and yellow flames that shot up 6 stories high, threatening to completely destroy the empire he had spent his life building. Much of his life's work was literally going up in smoke.
But when Edison arrived at the scene, he didn't panic or weep or rage against the unfairness of fate. He remained incredibly calm.
He turned to his son, Charles, and said something just astonishing. He said, "Go get your mother and all her friends. They'll never see a fire like this again."
And then, watching the flames, he declared with incredible acceptance, "It's all right, we've just got rid of a lot of rubbish."
What an incredible example of the discipline of desire in action. He instantly accepted the unchangeable reality of the moment, understanding that anger or weeping or fighting the facts would accomplish absolutely nothing.
His response was immediate acceptance, followed by a pivot. He vowed to start all over again tomorrow morning.
And the most incredible part of this story is that this acceptance led instantly to productive, empowered action. While the fire was still at its peak, Edison, in a moment of clarity, noticed how the firefighters were struggling due to the complete lack of mobile power and light on the scene.
And this inspired an immediate engineering idea: portable, robust searchlights.
He finalized that idea, leveraging the tragedy as a catalyst for innovation within 2 days. That is stoic acceptance leading directly to practical, productive genius.
This capacity for profound resilience is so deeply linked to the concept of non-attachment.
The Stoics recognize that everything is impermanent. People, wealth, status, looks, jobs. Attachment causes pain when that inevitable change occurs because we become enslaved to the status quo.
If you get upset by things, you are wrongly assuming that they will last forever.
Right. And the Stoics teach that by practicing non-attachment, you maintain resilience and you focus on the one thing that truly stays. Your ability to decide what that change means to you. You're constantly repeating the mantra, this too will pass.
And finally, we arrive at the third essential discipline for building the inner citadel: the discipline of action.
So judgment focuses on your thoughts, desire focuses on your acceptance.
And the discipline of action is about how you move through the world, specifically acting with justice and altruism toward the human community.
This means living justly, rationally, and consistently, applying the rules of discernment to your representations, and piously rejoicing in the present conjunction of events.
But again, the Stoics weren't just philosophers. They were highly practical psychologists. They didn't just teach theory. They gave us physical exercises, spiritual exercises to build fortitude. Let's talk about voluntary discomfort.
Yes, voluntary discomfort, strongly advised by Epictetus. It's a practice where we deliberately place ourselves in uncomfortable or slightly painful situations.
But the purpose is not punishment, right? It's inoculation.
Exactly. It trains the mind to reduce its powerful attachment to comfort, ensuring that you do not hold comfort in such high regard.
It is a literal way of building the physical and mental fortitude needed for life's inevitable hardships. And the suggestions are simple but powerful.
Take cold showers.
It's always the cold shower.
It's always the cold shower. But also, fast for a day, exercise immediately in the morning, sleep on the floor occasionally, or walk in the cold without a heavy coat.
The philosophy is clear. Once you prove to yourself that you can live without luxury, or even basic comfort, setting and sticking to your goals becomes much easier because the discomfort is no longer a deterrent.
So when true, unavoidable hardship inevitably strikes, when external conditions become dire, you will have the mental and physical fortitude to weather the storm without breaking down due to mere inconvenience. You are essentially training yourself to withstand life's worst blows.
That reframing is key. You're not doing a cold shower just to suffer, you're doing it to train the resilience muscle. And we have another incredibly powerful spiritual exercise, one heavily utilized by Marcus Aurelius, called the view from above, or the cosmic perspective.
I love this one because it's the ultimate reality check for modern anxiety, which so often stems from inflating our problems to cosmic proportions.
It's a philosophical practice that asks you to imagine yourself rising high above the earth, viewing human affairs from the vantage point of the cosmos and eternity.
As you rise above your city, you see the streets, the petty arguments, the career ambitions, the bustling market days, the births, the elimination of life, all of it just shrinking into perspective.
What feels overwhelming up close becomes small, brief, and part of a much larger, harmonious natural cycle. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote about contemplating eternity and observing the rapid change and decay of every part of everything.
The goal is to gain ample space by comprehending the whole universe in your mind.
And this cleanses the mind of useless, disturbing things that are rooted entirely in imagination and inflated significance.
Marcus Aurelius gave us a perfect, concise quote for this perspective. A grape seed in infinite space, a half-twist of a corkscrew against eternity.
Wow.
In this vast, panoramic view, your petty concerns just lose their emotional intensity. It makes the brevity of life clear, helping to dissolve the fear of elimination and reminding us that our sole, urgent task is to live with dignity and justice right now.
And modern psychology validates this. It recognizes the view from above as a powerful cognitive strategy used in various therapeutic approaches to reduce the emotional intensity of immediate stressors. It allows for cognitive distancing.
Helping us see thoughts and feelings as mere impressions, rather than objective, threatening realities.
And that leads us right back to the start of the day, because the mastery of the morning is a microcosm for the mastery of life. If you can achieve discipline in the morning, you can achieve it anywhere.
We mentioned that getting up early is a massive hurdle because of activation, energy, and sleep inertia.
And there's this recent trend of the 5 a.m. club, which suggests that an arbitrary clock time is the key to success.
But recent scientific research really challenges that idea, focusing on consistency and quality over arbitrary timing.
That's right. While society often heaps praise on the morning lark, emerging scientific research suggests that night owls, those who naturally prefer going to bed and getting up later, often demonstrate higher cognitive scores and mental sharpness, especially in the evening.
Which doesn't mean being a morning person is bad.
No.
But it means the emphasis should be completely shifted from arbitrary timing to quality and consistency.
So forcing yourself to wake up at 5 a.m. if your biology is hardwired for 7 a.m. might just be an exercise in needless voluntary discomfort rather than productive discipline.
Precisely. The key, according to sleep experts, is achieving what they call circadian entrainment.
Circadian entrainment.
Maintaining consistent timing for wake up, eating, and sleep that stabilizes your neuroendocrine signaling, rather than aiming for some arbitrary one-size-fits-all 5000 a.m. standard. You have to align your discipline with your biology, not fight it unnecessarily.
So, whether you are a morning lark or a night owl, maintaining sufficient high-quality sleep is crucial, ideally 7 to 9 hours.
Yes.
The goal of a disciplined routine, then, is to overcome sleep inertia and maintain consistency, not to fundamentally change your biological chronotype.
And that disciplined routine needs to actively combat sleep inertia, which is that groggy, low alertness state we all feel upon waking. The sources emphasize a few critical steps that must be done immediately. Get early light exposure, even if it's artificial.
Start hydration with water.
Move your body, even simple stretches, and initiate good nutrition. These actions force the executive brain, the PFC and AMCC, to take control immediately, bypassing the motivational trap of inertia.
So if you manage your morning routine with discipline, focusing on consistency, quality sleep, and immediate physical movement, you are ready for action. And the actions you take should always be focused on the highest Stoic goal: virtue.
Virtue, the excellence of character, which encompasses wisdom, justice, temperance, and fortitude, is, for the Stoics, the only true good. It's valued entirely for its own sake. This is the ultimate internal standard.
So when obstacles inevitably appear, the disciplined person doesn't see them as setbacks. They see them as opportunities to practice a different virtue.
That is a profound shift in perspective.
If I fail at one action, I don't lament the failure. I celebrate the chance to practice a different form of self-control. Give us a concrete example of how that works.
Okay, so Marcus Aurelius explained that if a person devotes himself to the service of the human community, prioritizing the virtue of justice, a sudden illness or a global catastrophe would constitute an obstacle to that particular activity.
He can no longer practice justice in the world in the way he intended.
Right. But the truly disciplined mind pivots.
How?
That illness simultaneously provides the opportunity to practice a different, equally high virtue: consent to destiny or acceptance, amor fati.
So the failure of the original action does not disturb your serenity?
No, because the action was perfect in its essence and intention, and it now gives you the opportunity to discipline your desire and judgment. You have treated an external action for an internal one, and the inner citadel is reinforced.
So what does this all mean for you listening today? We started by calling motivation garbage, and we end here focused on inner character and cosmic perspective.
It means true fulfillment comes not from waiting for a feeling, but from living rationally and justly. It means using the 3 disciplines: judgment for objectivity, desire for acceptance of what is, and action for living with virtue, to become a disciplined agent of your own life.
You are moving from a state of being a marionette tugged by the strings of selfish impulses
To the guiding principle of your own destiny, the hegemonicon. And that stronghold, built on discipline, is truly invincible.
The pursuit of mastery begins now. You know what you need to do to improve your life, and you know what you are supposed to do. The ability to take action when you don't feel like it is the core skill that will pay dividends for the rest of your life. It is the core of discipline, and discipline always beats motivation.
The deepest truth of life is that the world gives you impressions, whether they are fears, desires, or excuses. But only you can choose your ascent. Your mind, your hegemonicon, is your final sanctuary. The choice to act is always yours.
The final unspoken rule of life mastery is this: you cannot accept this knowledge without leaving your mark on it. It is an act of discipline to choose to be seen, to choose to engage.
If you're ready to start building those blueprints for your inner citadel, make sure you take virtuous action now and subscribe so you don't miss the next unspoken rule we uncover.
For every moment of hesitation you overcome with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, make sure you ring the bell to alert your future self to the content that truly matters and reinforces your new disciplined habits.
We want to know, which of the 3 Stoic disciplines, judgment, which is reframing your reality, action, acting justly, or desire, loving your fate, which one is the hardest for you to master?
Give this deep dive a scent. Like if you're ready to stop waiting for motivation. And comment below with the one small decision you'll use discipline for tomorrow. Start with a small action that builds the muscle.
The pursuit of mastery begins now. Let's dive in again soon.